So here are 4 of the baby mice that I saved. There is a total of 7, but that was way too many to have in my hand at one time. So I would separate them, feeding 4 at a time and then feeding the other 3 in my hand afterwards. Baby mice can be extremely difficult to feed. When I was initially trying to save them as pinkies, I had looked up online how to do this with feedings, and it did recommend feeding them with a fine-tipped paintbrush. Well, a few of the pinkies took to this pretty quickly, but the other ones would absolutely not, and I tried and I tried. So what I ultimately ended up doing was putting 4 of the baby mice in my hand, and then I would just pour a little bit of the baby formula into my hand as well, and then they would start to lap it up. Now, baby mice, can really climb all on top of each other and get pretty rude with one another to get their food. Initially, I started just putting tiny little drops of the baby formula into my hand, but they would smother each other trying to get to it. So I ultimately started pouring larger amounts of the formula into my hand, and yeah, they were able to lap it up. Now, in this video, it really looks like they are saturated in this formula, which they are not. I'm not sure if it was the light or what, but it was glaring in a way that they look covered in this formula. Yes, they did have some of the formula on them, but it was actually beneficial because after they were done with the feeding and would sleep for a little bit, they would start to clean themselves and ultimately be able to ingest more of the food. And again, they are all alive today. They are all thriving and happy. And so this worked. Everything worked out okay. Again, I was not a mouse expert and I did the best I could. I would have much rather had this a very perfect, clean process where each mouse just sucked on a paintbrush and it was perfectly clean, but that was just not my reality. And so I did what I had to do to get them to eat, and this was perfect. And you will see that basically from the time they are pinkies, they will clean themselves constantly. I had one pinky who would not eat no matter what I tried. And ultimately, she did start eating when I would place some baby formula on her paw. She would lick her paw, and this is how I fed her every day, 8 times a day or more for a very long time. And so I did what I had to do, and like I said, they're all alive, thriving, and happy. I would have loved to have been able to take each mouse individually and feed them in my hand, but that would have taken forever because I do have 7 of them, and after they're done eating, you have to rub their bottoms with a Q-tip to help stimulate the bathroom process. And so by the time I would have finished up with mouse number 7, it would have been time to start feeding mouse number 1 again. There are a few YouTube channels that do show people feeding pinky mice with paintbrushes, and they make it look very easy. But I was extremely frustrated because only a few of mine would do it, and the other ones I thought for sure were just going to die. So this is just to show you that there are other methods that you can try if they do not take the paintbrush. So Infamil was the type of formula that ultimately worked for me. I do have other videos going into different foods that you can try. Just know that if you have pinkies and they are not wanting to eat, there are many other ways that you can try to get them to do this besides the paintbrush. You definitely can save these pinkies. Do not feel bad if you cannot, but don't give up if they will not take the brush.